In this installment of Moose Lake School Superintendent Tim Caroline's recent discussion on the sexual abuse he suffered at the hands of a Catholic clergyman, he talks about what finally made him decide to come forward and both speak and take action on the disturbing incident that lay buried for nearly 4 decades.
And so it got to be one of those things where, I was able to open up and talk a little bit to some close friends, and that was very helpful. It was about 2002 when I kind of had a meltdown, and emotionally, a lot of things were going on in the Catholic Church at the time with in Boston, the bishop out there, archbishop, whatever, all this stuff was happening. And it was kind of bizarre because all of a sudden it just reopened something that I had kind of pushed away. So I was in my office and all of a sudden I just started crying. And it was like, why am I doing this? Why am I crying? Why is this happening to me now? Why is it hitting me so hard? And one of our special ed directors from Cloquet happened to come by my office to see me, and we're friends. And she said, "Tim, what's wrong?" And I just spilled my guts. I just told her. I was like, I just needed to get this off my chest. And it's funny how sometimes people are put in your life at the right place, the right time, and she was there. And so anyway, I shared my story, and then I did a lot of talking with my brother. Now, my brother, who was the priest at this point in time, he left the priesthood and married a nun, and which is kind of funny, but just marvelous people. He really was encouraging me to report this, because I had never reported it to the authorities or the church or anything like that. And so I knew at that point in time, just having this little meltdown, that I needed to do something. And so I contacted the Dunroven Retreat Center where it happened, and they put me in contact with the head person in Chicago. And so I called him up and reported what had happened to me. And he said, "Well, you need to know that you're not the only one." And this probably sounds a little strange, but it was a very strange feeling that I had, because part of me was like, "Oh, good. I wasn't the only one. It wasn't my fault. It wasn't anything that I did." And so, for a long time you carry that little baggage, in the back of your mind, why me? What did I do? I'm not that good looking. And so then after I started to process that, there was a growing anger that there were others. And that was maddening. And so as we had our conversation, he said that they removed this person from, being around kids, and I thought, good. You did the right thing. And so I thought everything was okay. And there was a sense of relief, weight being lifted off my shoulders, that I was able to call it in, and it was like another, this whole journey, that was another stop, where I needed to make that, and that was very, very good. I then contacted the Archdiocese of St. Paul just to let them know, just in case they were tracking these kinds of incidents also. The organization that runs the Dunroven are the Christian Brothers, they're called. The Christian Brothers of the Midwest. And I don't know if you understand the Catholic hierarchy or the different groups. There's the diocesan priest, and then there's, you know, different orders they're called that, you know, specialize. Some are in teachers, and the Christian Brothers are kind of into the teaching area. And so anyway, I reported it, and they offered any kind of counseling services I might need. And at that point in time, I was actually feeling a kind of a euphoria in that I took a step that I didn't know I would ever make, you know, and actually reporting it. And so I said, no, I don't need any counseling. I'm doing fine. Just talking about this has been real therapeutic and has made a big difference. So, you know, that was 2002, and so everything was kind of rolling along again pretty well, and I was, you know, handling my situation. And let's see, it would have been May of last year, my sister called me and said, you need to take a look at the Twin Cities newspaper. There's an article in there. And well, okay, you know, what's it about? She said, you know, the guy that molested you, another person has come forward. I was like, oh my goodness, you know. So I got the newspaper online and saw the guy's face, his picture, the brother that had molested me. And so I just said, well, I can't read this here. I was going to be a puddle if I did. So I went home, read it, and I just felt a connection to the guy that was bringing this lawsuit forward. And he chose to go under John Doe and not give his name. And I just, same place, same time frame, everything. His story was very, very similar. And so I don't know why, but I decided to call or email the reporter. And I just said, I'm Tim Caroline, I'm superintendent of schools in Moose Lake, and if you ever run into this John Doe again, just let him know that I believe him. And I've had very good support from my brothers and sisters and my school board members and staff and faculty that I've been able to share it with. And I figured that, I mean, I've had some really good support through this, and it's still a difficult thing to deal with. And so I just knew nothing about John Doe. And so I thought, well, if maybe the fact that, you know, it's one of those things where a lot of times you bring it up and, you know, people don't believe you or whatever, and I thought, I want him to know I do. So she asked if she could write that in the paper and use my name, and I said, definitely. I'm not John Doe, I'm Tim Caroline. And so again, I thought, well, that's the end of that. You know, everything's fine again, and I felt good that, you know, I hopefully reached out to this this person. And then I received a phone call from the reporter asking if she could do a follow-up story, and, you know, more specifically about what had happened to me. And so I did that, and that was in the St. Paul newspaper. And then I received a phone call from an attorney that was representing John Doe. And he asked if he could spend some time and asking me some questions about, you know, what had happened to me. And I said, definitely, that's fine. I made the mistake of doing that at school, where I was a puddle after I was done, you know, talking to him. You know, it's funny how at certain times the emotions start running, and you just, you know, whatever.
For the Moosetown Crier, I'm Paul Staub.